Here we see the elusive music teacher in his natural habitat, teaching all the children across the school about music. As we can see, this lesson appears to be on the major and minor scale. Major is happy, he says, and minor is sad. But little do the children know, their teacher is actually lying to them.
Major is not happy and minor is not sad. In fact, both of these are oversimplifications that undermine just how interesting and complex these scales actually are. Saying major is happy is like saying triumph and excitement and joy all fall under the same happy category. Sort of? And minor is meant to be sad. Well, just focus fall under happy or sad. Should you use minor or major when you want to convey focus? Well, I personally would choose minor, but focus isn't a sad emotion, if it even is an emotion. So if minor and major aren't happy and sad, then what are they actually? Well, it's as I said earlier, minor and major are complicated, maybe even a little bit convoluted and messy, but inside of the chaos, there is a stable bridge between the two worlds, and that bridge is Lydian. That's what we're talking about today, what major, minor, and Lydian actually are in part 1 of the 7 magical modes of music. Quick intermission, if you've never heard about Lydian before, or modes, then you'll want to go and watch my video on the major scale, which will give you an idea of what the heck I'm talking about. But if you do know what the heck I'm talking about, then let's get right into it. Major, minor, and Lydian, the terrific trio of modes that I and, well, most people use most frequently. But what music do they make and how is it that they work together? As I've already emphasized, they're quite difficult to explain as a whole, as are all of the modes. So what I'm going to be doing is describing them as the personalities of people who are also quite difficult to encapsulate as a whole. Imagine a man with a mostly relaxed demeanor. He is always smiling, and I mean always smiling. You would almost feel lucky to catch him without some form of smile on his face. But that smile doesn't always express happiness. Sometimes it's a proud grin, sometimes it's a gaze of satisfaction, but other times it's a empty smile, hiding something deeper within. That's who Mr. Ionian Major is. Smiling is associated with happiness and warmth, but it isn't always happy. It can be happy, but it can also be a cold heckle of a laugh, or it could be pride, or it could be triumph. There's lots of different things that a smile can express, just the same way that there's lots of different things that Major can express, and it's not necessarily happy emotions. Now imagine a calm, focused, elegant woman. She has a cunning and a keen mind, but she's not estranged from her emotions. In fact, she can be rather empathetic to those who know her, but her dark aura can also keep some others at bay. She's not always willing to fall down to another's level to help them, but she can provide a soft but strong and firm guiding hand to lead them on the right path. She can be an open ear for people who need to be listened to, or a keen mind that can help solve people's problems, but her dark aura does lead her to be biased and focus on current day problems as opposed to, say, celebrating over problems that have already been solved. This is Mrs. Aeolian Minor. Quite different then to the more warm, but also in a way more closed off Mr. Major. Sadly, their differences can make it difficult for them to understand each other, and with the force of their personalities, they can often cause situations to be chaotic when they are together. Yet, there's someone who can bring them together. Someone who is a combination of both, who empathizes with both, who understands both. That is their son, Lydian. Little Lydian doesn't have quite the strength of personality that his parents do, but he has a strong appetite for growth. As a result, he's always pushing forward and never really content to stand still. When he's alone, he struggles to be anything more than a child, but when he's working with others, his tendency to always push forward only strengthens the capabilities of others, especially his parents, Mr. and Mrs. M. He can also hone the edges of his parents and make them more well-rounded and less biased, able to be even more versatile than they already were without compromising on the force of their personality and the force of the emotion that they can express. And his ability to bring both of his parents together, no matter what, means that when they are together, all three of them, they can accomplish almost anything, even if little Lydian by himself isn't as versatile. So there's my vague-ish, personality-driven explanation of what Major, Minor, and Lydian are. But how does it actually sound when they work together? Let's split this into 4 parts. Major and Minor, without Lydian, Major and Lydian, Minor and Lydian, and all 3 of them working together. As I said before, Major and Minor can accomplish a lot together, though their differences mean that they don't always play nicely. Often when you swap between Major and Minor, the transition sticks out and feels very sudden. Now that might be appropriate, but it also might not be. The change isn't exactly horrible, but it is a massive shift in the emotion being conveyed by the music. They less work with each other and more pass the baton between each other in a relay, which can be really graceful, but also can result in someone slipping on the grass, lobbing it at a teammate's head, and then everyone falls to the ground with bloody noses. Hell. So how can Lydian help? Well, Lydian does take the last name of his father. In other words, Lydian is a pretty major sounding key. That means that Major, or really Ionian, and Lydian are very compatible. You'll most commonly see these two working together within situations like a chorus of a song. In songs that change chord progressions, verses are usually written with a major chord progression, and choruses, or bridges, are usually written with a Lydian chord progression. This works well because Lydian doesn't really undermine the emotion that Major sets up. It just applies a sense of pushing forward, which is how you get a chorus that sort of says, "But wait, there's more!" Which isn't that kind of the point to the chorus, is to make it feel like there's more to the song and have it feel fresh. Now, Major may be more like his father, but he still picked up some traits from his mother, Minor. When Minor talks about darkness, Lydian brings light, which emphasizes Minor's caring heart. When Minor and Lydian work together, they can give the sense that things may be wrong, but there is still hope. In a way, Lydian is saying here, but wait, there's more. And it's important to note here that Lydian isn't the light in the darkness, but rather the light with the darkness. It more emphasizes some of Minor's specific traits, whilst also being its own thing. It's adding to the emotion, not necessarily completely substituting it like you do when you have minor and major switched between each other. But when minor is applying her keen mind as opposed to talking about darkness, Lydian just makes that look really cool. And when minor's being soft, prepare for a whole lot of warmth and strength once Lydian gets involved. So surely you can see how Lydian is handy with both, which might make you ask the question, can Lydian be used as a bridge between the two? Well, yeah, duh, that's what the title says. In fact, that's kind of the simplest thing to explain here, since major and Lydian and minor and Lydian work so well together, Lydian just brings them together. Where major can be too much warmth too quickly for minor, Lydian can sort of add a little bit, then go to major. Or when minor can be too much darkness for major, it's just the same situation. They just sort of flow like a gradient as opposed to a sudden change. Now, obviously, these aren't the only modes. We're talking about the 7 magical modes of music, not 3. And there are others that can do the same job that Lydian does. However, in my personal opinion, I don't think that they do it quite as well. For example, you could argue that Dorian can go between minor and major, but I feel like Dorian is a bit too dark to properly go with major, where Lydian pushes forward and goes, there's still more. Dorian's a bit more determined, and it doesn't necessarily always blend quite so much when you have, for example, joy and determination working together. But we'll talk about that next time. For now, I have a lockdown friend to keep me company.